I had enough this morning. I was immediately angry, and if you know me, you know I am someone who gets angry like this. At the snap of a finger, Brian is now angry. And I just couldn't fucking stomach it anymore.
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 52 of the 476ers podcast. My sleeves are so short. Anyway, I'm sorry. Episode 52 of the 476ers podcast. Anyone who knows me knows I hate sleeves that are too short. You know, I like shorter sleeves, but not sleeves that are this short. You know what I mean? That looks like I have booty shorts on my shoulders. Anyway, although those are, this is not what we're talking about. This is not a porn. I'm sorry. I'm a little unhinged. I was sick a few days ago. I wanted to do this podcast earlier this week, and I wasn't feeling well on Wednesday. And then yesterday, because I ended up missing work Wednesday, Thursday, I spent most of my day trying to get caught up. But anyway, I wanted to talk basketball, as I want to do. We will be recording some more keeping the same energy stuff coming up next week. Keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for some more hilarious clips that I'll be putting out. We just put out some funny clips. One clip that got a lot of traction. I hope all of you guys watched, about part-time jobs. If I worked with you at Sears or if I worked with you at City Blue, you should definitely check that out. Anyway, so I had enough this morning. I was immediately angry, and if you know me, you know I am someone who gets angry like this. At the snap of a finger, Brian is now angry. And I just couldn't fucking stomach it anymore. So we're going to talk about the playoffs. You know what? Okay, let's start here with Celtics Heat, because then I'll talk about why I'm so angry. Celtics Heat. I'm still going to pick the Celtics to win the series. Don't you worry about it. I'm not going back on that, because that was the pick. I don't think I really made that pick, but to give myself some credit, I definitely did say at the beginning of the playoffs, before the playoffs started, I could 100% see Celtics Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think a lot of people would have picked that. I'm going to take some credit for that right now. So, boop, pat myself on the back. This Heat team, let's go positive here before I go angry. This Heat team is really good. You know, they have one. Eric Spoelstra is pretty much out-coaching everyone right now. So you could argue that Spo is probably the best coach in the NBA, especially if they win this series. I mean, he's put Brad Stevens in some situations that Brad has not necessarily responded too well to. Now, some of it is that he doesn't have the players to respond. They're getting killed in pick and roll, and he brings in Enes Kanter, which seems confusing, although that's a little revisionist history, because they were up big in the second quarter with Kanter in the game, and then in the third quarter it all fell apart for them. So it just seems like they're playing a lot of zone, which they hadn't played much zone early on. I mean, part of this, you could argue, is what they saw against the Raptors when they went box and one. It seemed like the Celtics had issues adjusting to the zone. So until Brad Stevens can find a way to adjust to this zone, I don't know what they're going to do. Now they have the skilled players. So in my opinion, and some of what I'm going to be doing here today is a rebuttal. And shout out to Vic, because Vic wanted to rebuttal Bill Simmons months ago, and I said no, I didn't want to do that on this podcast. That's not what this podcast is. But I definitely do feel the need to rebuttal some of the things. Because I hate that I even have to. That's not what this podcast is. But damn, there is some shit that is out there that is, to me, so ignorant that I have to say something about it. I just can't allow this to perpetuate, these storylines perpetuate. One, on their last podcast, he said that the Heat are the most talented team left, arguably more talented than the Clippers. And no, they're not. They're not more talented. They're not more talented than the Celtics. They're not. The Celtics have four possible All-Stars in their starting five. Now, Gordon hasn't played this series. He'll be back in Game 3, it looks like. But when healthy, they have four All-Stars in their starting five. They have another guy right now who when Gordon went down, that they replaced with, who is a first-team all-defensive player. What are you talking about more talented? Enes Kanter has had 20 games in his career. Again, you're not going to tell me that the 1 through 9, with Gordon involved, that the 1 through 9 is less talented than the Heat's 1 through 9. You're just not going to convince me of that. Because the Heat are playing Iguodala big minutes. Iggy is old as shit, old as dirt. He can't shoot. He can barely defend. He is old as dirt. You're playing Iggy big minutes. Goran, shout out to Goran, who's playing really well, but let's just keep it. He was an all-star 2 years ago, and again, old as dirt also. Is very old. He's over the hill, but is playing really well. He has a knee brace that looks like he's wearing a transformer on his leg. Kendrick Nunn, who was competing for Rookie of the Year, who can't even get on the floor. Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, who, depending on the day, I don't know which one is actually better. I have no idea. They're both good, though, but I just don't know which one is better depending on the day. They're good players. They're good. Tyler Hero is second team all-rookie. Didn't even compete for Rookie of the Year. Duncan Robinson, who last year no one really knew, came on late, and now this year is playing well. Then it's Bam and Jimmy. Well, Bam and Jimmy, if those are your two best players, I would have taken almost any other two best players over Bam and Jimmy in the NBA. I would take the Celtics' two best players over Bam and Jimmy. I would take the Clippers' two best players over Bam and Jimmy. The Nuggets' two best players over Bam and Jimmy. I would take the Lakers' two best players over Bam and Jimmy. I would have arguably taken our two best players without Ben over Bam and Jimmy. What are we talking about? All of a sudden, this most talented team in the NBA? No, they're not. They're not the most talented team in the NBA. They have talent. They're built really well. Great coaching. Great defense. Hard-nosed defense. Nothing is easy. When you're playing a team like that, if you're not executing 100% of the time, nothing is easy. You know what I mean? They're aggressive. They're as good a defensive team. They can be as good a defensive team as the Raptors are, but they're more aggressive when it comes to it. You see, one thing that happened with the Raptors was that once you got past Kyle Lowry, none of the other guys seemed – the truth of what happened last year came out, I think, in a lot of those guys, was that it was Kawhi. They were marching to Kawhi's step, and that's what they needed. You see, what the Heat are emulating right now are literally what the Raptors emulated last year. It's one guy. If that's your best guy, you feel comfortable going into a fight, and that's Jimmy. Credit to Jimmy. Jimmy is not one of the 5 best players. He's not one of the 10 best players in the NBA. But carries himself in a way that even if he's facing Kawhi, even if he's facing LeBron, even if he's facing any of those guys, he's going to fight like he's the best, right? So you get these guys to believe in him, and they march according to that step, and that's what happened with the Raptors last year. Well, now they had less – they needed Pascal to take that step. He just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. You know what I mean? He doesn't have it. He doesn't have what it takes to take that step. So they're marching to Kyle Lowry, but that is just not enough. They just didn't have enough. They didn't have what they needed. You see, because last year it was march to Kawhi, but Kyle is the spirit, right? Well, now you don't have anyone to march to, and Kyle is still the spirit, and Kyle played his ass off. Kyle, Hall of Famer, by the way. Listen, what he did against the Celtics, man, that dude, man, God bless him. Hall of Famer, no question about it. He will walk in. For if he had not convinced you from last year's playoff run, this year's playoff run, he walks in as a first ballot, in my opinion. Anyway, so this Heat team is built this way, and now we have a revisionist history of Jimmy Butler, and this pisses me off because I promise you, I would much rather celebrate Jimmy and the Heat and what they're doing instead of being immediately angry at how we have decided to rewrite history. We can't agree on history in this country. There's another podcast. If you watch The Social Dilemma, this is what they talk about, right? Like how we can't even fucking agree. We in this country can't even agree that the earth is dying, right? We can't even agree on climate change. Well, now in basketball, we somehow can't agree on the climate change of Jimmy Butler now. All of a sudden, we seem to have forgotten that, one, let's run down the facts. And I tweeted this yesterday. Well, no, not tweeted. I posted this on Instagram yesterday, which was an excerpt of a story written by, no, was it a story? It was something reported by, I forgot who reported this. But this was reported years ago when this happened in the beginning. When Jimmy was still in Chicago, he was linked to the Heat then. There were people talking about this 3 years ago. He was gonna go to the Heat. It was never different. When he played with Dwayne Wade, that was what the story was how he was very intrigued by the Heat culture. He wanted to hear from the Heat. He was gonna go there. You wanted to give Jimmy 5 years, $200 million. He's 30 years old. He scored 16 points in Game 7 on 5 of 16 shooting against the Raptors last year. When he carries himself like when he's facing Kawhi, he's the man. It's that when he faces Kawhi, he's not the fucking man. Relax. Let's not rewrite history now. Please do not rewrite history. He was never going to stay here. He burned down the Bulls. Let's be clear. The Bulls organization is trash. The Timberwolves organization is whatever. You know, they haven't been great. Listen, they've tried. They've tried. They've tried. Let's just be real. They've tried. They shipped out Kevin Love. They managed to pair Wiggins with Cat and now D'Angelo. On paper, that was a fantastic thing. Now they shipped out Wiggins and got Malik Beasley and some other guys. On paper, they've done a lot of good things. It's just these guys didn't have it. That's what bothered Jimmy. So that organization is okay. Our organization is a shit show, so whatever. But you want to know what else is here? Because it's easy to forget. It's easy to point at the organizational dysfunction and be like, this is why Jimmy left. But in reality, one of the first stories that had come out with Jimmy with the Bulls was that Jimmy didn't like Derrick Rose. He didn't like that D Rose was essentially given a red carpet everywhere he went, even though Jimmy was busting his ass in the workout room and the practice facility doing all this. He didn't like Derrick Rose. That was his team. Goes to Cat's team. He doesn't like how Cat runs things. Comes to our team. He's not the guy here either. He's the guy, but he's not the guy. He's the least talented of all the guys he's played with. He was less talented than D Rose in his prime. Less talented. Cat, let's be clear. You can feel however you want to feel about Cat and Wiggins. Their talent is through the roof. Their ceilings, the ceilings of their talent is through the roof. Their attitude is what brings them down. Cat is as talented as a center as any center in the NBA. He is as talented as any center. As he is a very good passer. He's not as good as a passer as Joker, but he's a very good passer, very good shooter, very good post player. When he's locked in on defense, is a destructive force around the rim. The problem is his attitude is too flighty. You just don't know where he stands. But he is as good as any center in the NBA. Comes here, is beefing now with whatever he's beefing with. He flips out on Brett Brown in a film room, and we accepted that. Mind you, look how stupid we are. We accepted that because we didn't like Brett, right? We didn't like Brett. But in what scenario would you just allow a player to snap on a coach and think that the player is in the right all the time? No one would ever accept that. We accepted that because we don't agree with Brett. Because we didn't like Brett. So we said, well, Brett is stupid, so maybe Jimmy has a point. But not really. You would never accept that anywhere else. Snaps on Brett. He wants a 5-year max. Listen, we shouldn't have given that dumbass contract to Toby, or especially not Al. But we shouldn't have given a 5-year max to Jimmy. Are you crazy? He's 30. He's going to be 35. At the 5th year of that contract is going to look like a fucking albatross for a guy who in the playoffs last year shot 26% from 3. Who again, he had some good moments in the Raptors series. I think he scored 31 game, 25 one game. Game 1 scored 10 points. Game 7 scored 16 on 5 of 16 shooting, and has a big play at the end. He has a big play to push it to push it into a scenario where we are tied, to tie the game. He ties the game. Big play to tie the game, no question about it. Thank you, Jimmy, for tying the game. Okay? But let's not, come on. We're rewriting history. He wanted his own team. He ended up in a culture that, the Heat like guys like Jimmy. The Heat want guys like Jimmy. Now, I'm not going to rewrite the history of Miami Heat culture all of a sudden, that they've always wanted guys like Jimmy, because LeBron is not a guy like Jimmy by any means. Chris Bosh is not a guy like Jimmy by any means. But if you couldn't get what the culture actually is, if you can't get LeBron, I'm sorry, I'm putting my middle finger by it. If you can't get LeBron, if you can't get Bosh, if you can't get the most talented guys, you want to get the guys in the mud, right? Who are going to make every game difficult, and therefore you can be in every single game. If you can manufacture 100 points, you can win every game because you're always going to defend and make everything really difficult. That's the team. That's the culture they want. If they can't get LeBron, if they can't get Bosh, if they can't get those guys, right? So he ends up on a team that is built like that. That's exactly what Jimmy is. Jimmy's going to score this amount of points. He's going to score 20 points, right? So by the end of regulation, if you have outscored Jimmy, then you win. He's not going to score 30, but he'll get you 20, right? But what Jimmy's going to do is in that regulation, he's going to keep you to 18 points, right? So it's not going to be a high-scoring regulation, but he's going to keep you there, and he's going to win the game. They built a team of guys that are hard-nosed defensive players. The nucleus on top of that, the nucleus of this team is young. Those guys look up to Jimmy. It's the perfect situation for Jimmy to thrive. We should be praising that. We shouldn't be going in retrospect to look at all the franchises he burned down and say, actually, it wasn't Jimmy's fault. No, it was Jimmy's fault. Jimmy wanted his own team. He needed the specific situation to thrive. In regular, everyday life, you would say that you had a problem employee if the guy you were working with was just burning down every bridge until he found the one bridge that promoted him, right? That made him, that was able to work with him, which is my career. Honestly, if you looked at my career, that's pretty much how I went. That's how my career has gone. But you would say, you would give me shit if you looked at me burning down all these previous bridges. You know what I mean? Because the bridges were burned down. No matter how you burned them down, they were burned. That's what Jimmy did. And now Jimmy found a situation that promotes him, that is working for him. Good for him. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Heat and this culture. Let's celebrate that. Let's not go in retrospect and try to shit on these franchises that Jimmy burned down. Because Jimmy didn't just burn down the franchises. He was burning down the players in the room. He shitted on all the players he's played with, except for the Heat. Oh, my God. He shitted on all the players he's played with. This is the dude you want in your locker room that if one guy, like he couldn't play with Kevin Love because Kevin Love has mental health issues. He's a softer guy, right, that, maybe doesn't respond well to Jimmy. So if Jimmy plays with him, he's going to burn him down just because he doesn't match Jimmy's level of intensity. No, fuck him. I don't want that guy in my locker room. Are you kidding me? The Heat wanted him in the locker room because the Heat were in the perfect position to absorb him. They didn't have any other all-stars. There's no other competing personalities in the locker room. You don't have to worry about him coming in and shitting on everything. So it works. But you're not going to add him. You're not going to bring Chris Paul into that. Doesn't make sense. I hate that we like, let's not rewrite history. That's my point. Don't rewrite history. Our franchise, our front office sucks dick. Terrible. Fuck our front office. The Bulls front office sucks. But that wasn't why Jimmy left. Jimmy was shitting on all the players along the way. On every single player he played with, he shit on them. You know what I mean? Come on. Jesus Christ. Good for them. I still think the Celtics will bounce back and win. I just have to because they're more talented. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. You got 4 guys who are going to be on the court for 30-plus minutes a game. 32 minutes a game. So you can tell me that 1 through 9 is more talented if you want. Except that the guys that are playing 30-plus minutes on the Celtics are more talented. That is without a question. And I wouldn't even say 1 through 9 is more talented necessarily. You know what I mean? They fit that better in some cases than the other guys. So I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm still going to pick the Celtics to win. I'm more like I'm going to go down with the ship. You know what I mean? But it's a ship that I don't mind going down with. It's a ship that I think they can bounce back from. It's been interesting. Again, the Heat are hard-nosed. They're difficult to beat. They're going to make it difficult on everybody. The problem with the Celtics is they have no way to put pressure on Bam. They have no way to put pressure on the front line. And all of the perimeter defenders make it difficult for guys like Jalen and Tatum to get it going. Even though they are scoring, they just don't have a lot of bench help. Gordon coming back is going to help them for sure because it'll move Marcus back to the bench. Also will give them a really cool going small option where they can put Gordon Hayward at the 5. You know what I mean? And give that a try. Because again, Bam is not. It's not like Bam is this super destructive offensive player. Bam can do a couple things on offense, but you're not necessarily worried about his offense. If he scores 20 points, I don't think that's necessarily lending to winning in that way. Him scoring a lot of points. I think you really are looking to get Hero, to get those guys off. So Gordon having the opportunity to possibly playing small ball 5, for example, and then you go with Kemba, Marcus, Jason, Jalen, and Gordon, I think gives a look that is very difficult to contend with defensively. So we'll see. There's a couple things you can try. They got to figure out this, and that's something that Gordon would help. If you had Gordon, let's say you had Gordon spotting up in the middle of the floor at the free throw line when the Heat go into their zone, you're putting somebody in a soft spot in the zone who can hit that shot all day, can actually cause issues. So we'll see. There's a couple things they can do. The Heat are playing really, really well. Again, credit to them. I'd rather celebrate the good things about them. I'm not going to go in retrospect and shit on everything else that's happened before then, because we're just rewriting history over and over and over again just because Jimmy is playing well now. If Jimmy was playing poorly, here's what's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry to go back to this. If Jimmy was playing poorly, people would then be shitting on Jimmy for everything he did previous. And guess what? What he did previous has nothing to do with if he's playing poorly today. It has nothing to do with it. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Let's stop. Please. I'm just asking. I'm asking that we stop this madness. Before I want to look at something here. Let's talk about what happened here with the. We talked about the Bucks. Yeah, I talked about the Bucks previously. Let's talk about the Clippers. Wow. I just want to see something real quick before we jump, because there's one thing I want to rebuttal here. On the Simmons podcast, he talked about how Ryan Russillo went on this whole thing. This was not this podcast that just happened, but the podcast previous to that. Talked about how he would, if let's say the Bucks were found out that that they were going to trade Giannis, that Giannis wanted to leave, so you're going to trade Giannis. So the Sixers call and they say, hey, we would offer you Joel for Giannis. Russillo goes on this whole thing about how no, he wouldn't, blah, blah, some dumb shit. Yes, they would. And let me tell you something. Joe made me angry this year in Game 4 because he rolled over. But let's just look at his numbers from this playoff run, because some of you guys may not realize this. I understand it wasn't the best. There was no other players. He's getting triple teamed constantly. This year's playoff run, 4 games only, so small sample size. He averaged 30 points, 12 rebounds, 1 assist, almost 2 steals, and 1 block a game. That's 30, 12, 2, 2, and 2, pretty much. He shot 82% from the free throw line. He had he shot 52% from 2, 52% field goal percentage, 25% from 3. Not great, obviously. But someone has to shoot threes. He shot a lot more. He only took 4 attempts a game. But 30-12, or go 30-12, 1-1-1. You can say that if you want. And really that happens because Game 4, the effort wasn't there. If his effort was up in Game 4, the steals, blocks would have been better. The point being, if any center averaged 30 and 12 in the playoffs, we would be blowing him. Okay? Let's just keep it a buck. Keep it a buck. Please? Let's not rewrite this now, too. He averaged 30 and 12. He pissed me off in Game 4, deservedly, but he averaged 30 and 12. Okay? Yeah, the Bucks would trade Giannis for Joe if they thought Giannis was leaving. Okay? That's all. I just want to say that real quick. Now, let's move on to the best center in the NBA. Sorry, Joe. I apologize to you. I love you, Joe. I love you. You're making me angry right now because you keep tweeting things about Jimmy. And last night, Justin Anderson tweeted, oh, Joe, you were right. Jimmy does all these little things, blah, blah, blah. But Joe doesn't do any of the little things. So, whatever. Fuck that. Don't like that tweet. Joe, stop. Get off of Twitter. You're making me angry. Even though, you know what? If you're putting pressure on the front office, then fuck it. Do it. then do it. Because this front office is a goddamn joke. We haven't seen any changes. We saw Brett get fired, and that's it. We knew that was going to happen. That's nothing new. We knew Brett would get scapegoated. When, again, Brett needed to go, but it's not completely his fault. I'm not going to sit here and play that game like it's just it was only Brett's fault. When, meanwhile, our front office goes and signs dumb fucking players. Makes stupid fucking trades. The Jimmy trade should have never happened. The Toby trade should have never happened. We should have been sitting here going to war with Cove, with Dario, with Landry Shamet, with Mikal Bridges. Man, I wish we had Mikal Bridges. He would have helped us so much. Could you imagine? 3-and-D guy. A 3-and-D super athletic wing that could run the perimeter with Ben. How didn't that guy fit? And then you could have run out a lineup that was like something real crazy. And we would have signed, let's say we re-signed JJ, and you would have ran out like JJ, Ben, because Ben can defend pretty much 1 through 5. JJ, Ben, Mikal, Cove, and Joe. I would have loved to have gone to war with that. With Landry, Dario, let's say we still draft Shake, I would guess, coming off the bench. Now, we fucked it all up. Instead, we start trading assets for shitty players that don't fit. I don't want to redo this. I'm so sorry. This is not about the Sixers. Let's go on to the Nuggets. I am so sorry. Just angry. I'm just angry. Joker is the best center in the NBA. I'm sorry, Joe. Joe, you have the highest ceiling. But, Joe, you have one of the highest. You have a top 3 ceiling in the NBA, I would say. You have the ceiling of you is to be a top 3 player. No question about it. Your ceiling is through the roof. You know what I mean? But Joker, in practice, is the best center in the NBA right now. You cannot take that away from him. You don't go into 4 Game 7s. And listen, I don't want to sit here and reminisce about how they keep putting themselves into Game 7s or how they keep putting themselves down 3-1 in these playoff series. You go into 4 Game 7s and you're 3-1. Speaking of 3-1, how ironic. You're 3-1 in Game 7. That is an incredible stat. I haven't seen enough people talking about that. That is a fucking crazy stat. Every single playoff series that Jamal and Joker have played in, they've gone to Game 7. Since dating back to last year, they've been in 4 playoff series together, and they've all gone to Game 7. That is resilience. That is resilience. That is clutch, whatever you want to call it. Joker, I don't know. I don't understand because it seemed like people are not talking about how crazy Joker's game was the other night. Let me pull up his stats real quick. Jamal deserves a ton of credit for Game 7, too. They both deserve a ton of credit. Jamal is playing out of this fucking world. But Joker's Game 7, let's pull this bad boy up real quick because it's pretty fucking incredible. Where are we at here? Show playoff. Yeah, here we go. Let's go to that. Why are you being difficult? Here it is. Okay, Joker's Game 7. Let's pull up Game 7 because I kind of forgot. 16 points, 22 rebounds, and 13 assists. 16 points, 22 rebounds, and 13 assists. Game 6, 34, 14, and 7. Game 5, 22, 14, and 5. Are you kidding me? This is the best center in the NBA, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Joe. Game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, Game 1 was a struggle. Game 1, he didn't play great. But then Game 2, 26, 18, and 4. Game 3, 32, 12, and 8. I mean, this is the best center in the NBA. There was a good article written at the beginning of this year, early on by Kevin O'Connor, who writes for The Ringer, who to me is probably the best basketball mind. It's like him, Zach Lowe, Haralabob when he used to do stuff, but we don't ever hear him talk about it. And listen, Bill Simmons used to be up there, but I don't think Bill has time for the day-to-day basketball anymore, and therefore his opinions just don't make a lot of sense anymore. I'm sorry. Bill Simmons deserves credit. Let's be clear. Because Philadelphia radio shits on Bill Simmons, Mike Missinelli had a whole thing. It was, I don't know why Bill Simmons. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because Bill wrote a 1,000-page book called The Book of Basketball, and it's, to me, the best basketball book out there. It's written in a way that you idiots can understand. You know what I mean? There are better, more technical basketball resources out there, no question about it. But this book is written in such a digestible way, and he breaks down what he thinks is the top 96 players at this time. And it's excellent, and it's groundbreaking, and it's great. And he deserves all the success he's gotten. Except for the Joe Budden thing, which was kind of hilarious. But that's a different story. Anyway, but at this point, I don't think he just does a lot of things. I don't think he has time to look at all the minutia of day-to-day basketball activities, and some of his opinions are fucking. I just don't know what he's thinking. But with that said, what was the point I was making here about Bill Simmons? I'm sorry. Yeah, best basketball minds. You know, writers in terms of media, I should say, in terms of media guys. But listen. Bill Simmons is the one who put on Bill Barnwell. If you read any football stuff on ESPN, Bill Barnwell comes from Bill Simmons. Zach Lowe is a child of Bill Simmons. And now Kevin O'Connor. Great. These are some of the best basketball minds. Kevin O'Connor is one of the best basketball writers right now alive. You know what I mean? So Kevin O'Connor wrote a great piece earlier this year about how while Joker isn't necessarily a great defensive center in terms of rim protection, because that's how we typically measure defensive centers, his basketball IQ allows him to be in situations where maybe he's not getting blocks, but is always affecting shots going up when he's involved in the pick and roll, right? So he's always getting a hand on the ball when the offensive player is trying to collect. He's always slapping the ball or maybe forcing the ball to come loose, forcing turnovers that way. So he's always in the right position. He's always doing things like that. So while he's not the rim protector that Rudy is or that Joe is, he does all the other things that a good perimeter defender might do. You know, when they're undersized, for example, even though he's not undersized, but because he's smart, because he's not as athletic, he does those things. That's what makes him an effective defensive center. And if you don't remember at the beginning of the season in November, December, while they were just firmly being one of the three best teams out West and no one was talking about it, they were doing it as the best defensive team in the NBA in November and December. I think both of those months they had like the best defensive rating in the NBA at that time. Then they had a bunch of injuries. Guys like Gary Harris get injured. Gary's a very good defender. But their front office did a great job. Jeremy Grant, wish we had him. Holy shit, how good is Jeremy Grant? Great defensive player, another good 3-and-D guy. Can defend can really defend all the positions. They had him defending Donovan Mitchell a lot during that Jazz series. You know what I mean? And while he was getting baked, it just shows the point that you have a guy who can defend other guys on the perimeter. And Donovan went bonkers that series. Trust me, that has nothing to do with Jeremy's defense. That was Donovan taking a leap. You know what I mean? Right in front of our eyes. Like I talked about Tatum doing, Donovan was doing that in that series, taking a mini leap. But yeah, so that front office has done a good job. That's a good team, man. That's a really well-built team if they keep that team together. Jamal, listen, if you know me, I'm not the biggest Jamal fan. But at this point, you're going to have to give Jamal the credit he deserves. You know, yeah, he's going to have his down games where he scores 15 here and whatever. He may not be the consistent 30-point-a-night guy. But when push comes to shove, if it's game 7, I've seen in now 2 back-to-back game 7s, I've seen him hit ridiculous shots that don't make any sense. You know what I mean? And what they effectively did to the Clippers, I'm not going to give Kawhi the pass that other people are willing to give. I know why people want to give him a pass, and I respect giving him a pass because at this point, his track record is proven. It's spoken for himself. This guy's walking into the Hall of Fame, what he did on the Raptors last year and what he did this year and what he did with the Spurs. Again, before he gets injured by Zaza Pachulia, he looks like he was about to single-handedly dispatch of that Warriors team. The Warriors dodged a major bullet in Zaza Pachulia injuring Kawhi. But this kind of is a problem when your main guy is not vocal, per se, right? Because one thing I'll give credit to Jimmy here is you're not going to see Jimmy go down that way. Because what has effectively happened to that team was they take a lead, the Nuggets fight back through the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, effectively take the heart out of the Clippers. I mean, Paul George, you saw me essentially clown Matisse for breaking off the side of the backboard yesterday. No, I'm sorry, not yesterday. I was reading a text message. You saw me clown Matisse for breaking off the side of the backboard at the end against the Celtics. And here comes Paul George, brick off the side of the backboard. I can't believe that happened. That was fright. That was fright. They were scared. They had the heart ripped out of them by the Nuggets. You know what I mean? Because you know Joker. What's funny about Joker is you see this like a chubby, pudgy guy. He's not super unassuming. He's not barking like a Rottweiler is, right? Like Jimmy's a Rottweiler. Instead, Joker is kind of like a Mastiff, right? Like a bull Mastiff, where maybe not a loud bark, doesn't seem very intrigued by you, is kind of bored by you, doesn't seem. But if you're gonna fuck with it, you're gonna die because it's one of the strongest dogs, right? It's a Mastiff, or like a Napolitan Mastiff, where they can grow to be like 220 pounds. And if it punches you, if a Mastiff punches you, it's gonna break your fucking face. You know, they're not punchers, but I'm just saying you can imagine how a Mastiff punches a Rottweiler in the face and dislocates his whole shit. Um, so maybe it's not barking like, you know, because when you think of Rottweiler, you're thinking like DMX videos, barking and drool and all this anger. You wouldn't put a Mastiff in it because it'd be the most boring music video ever. However, the Mastiff is very powerful, and that's essentially what happened. You had all these dogs barking at this Mastiff before the Mastiff, you know, it seems like they have the lead, and then the Mastiff is unbothered and bounces back. I mean, he is like, you know what it reminds me of too? Is like Rocky IV, when Drago was talking about Rocky in the corner, and he's like, you know, he's like a piece of iron. You know what I mean? He's like a piece of iron. Yeah, that's what Joker and what the Nuggets are. Which Jamal is the talking piece. Jamal is the one who is super more animated. Joker is just doing Joker shit. You know, moving at his pace. Joker and Luka are your responses to, if you see guys that maybe are not as athletic, how they can still play the game at their pace and be super duper effective. This is why when people try to shit on Larry Bird, it doesn't make sense, because Larry is going to play at his own pace. You can't shit on Larry Bird. He's going to play at his own pace. He's going to come in today's game and average 35 a game. He's too fucking smart. He plays at his own pace. That's all it is. And that's what Joker does. What a crazy. With that said, though, he's going to have to guard Anthony Davis right now. You don't put Anthony Davis in a pick and roll and expect to win that matchup. One of the reasons why the Nuggets ended up beating the Clippers was because Doc is not the X's no guy. Let's just be clear. He could not figure out how to stop them from exploiting Lou Will and Montrez on pick and rolls, because all these guys just bark a lot. You know what I mean? Until forced into action, and then they all collapse under the pressure. And it was funny because I remember watching that Clippers team thinking, maybe this is a good situation for Kawhi. It's all these other guys who bark a lot, and meanwhile Kawhi is a silent killer. We know he's the one to worry about. Let these guys bark, but when push comes to shove, it's Kawhi. But no, that's not what happened here. Instead, all of the barking, all the guys who barked, as they collapsed, started looking more and more to Kawhi. And again, I just said this was one of the best defensive teams in the NBA early on. They forced these guys into tough situations. They're smart. They're relentless. Good for them. They're going to play the Lakers. This is going to be a tough matchup for them because, again, this is going to be the first big man that actually forces them to have issues. We saw them give up a lot to Rudy. They struggled with Rudy early on in that series before they finally said, okay, enough games here. I don't know how that's going to go against Anthony Davis, who as a screener and roller is dominant. You know what I mean? Is dominant. Hey, shout out to Dom. I know you think that AD is overrated, but again, that's because of his attitude, not because of the skill set. He's a dominant roller. I don't know what you're going to do with him on offense. I think, you know, you're going to have to put Jeremy. I don't mind the Jeremy AD matchup, putting Jeremy Grant on AD per se. You know, he's long and quick on his feet. It'll be interesting. AD is strong as shit, though. I don't know what you're going to do there. You're going to have to eat that and keep Joker out of foul trouble. Let Joker guard, you know, JaVale. It's going to be interesting. They don't have anyone who can guard Jamal Murray. And no, Avery Bradley is not the answer for Lakers fans who are like, I wish Avery Bradley was going to come over. Avery Bradley would have been injured by now. Just Avery gets injured every other day. You know what I mean? Let's be clear. So I don't know what the answer is. They do have, I mean, they had Caldwell Pope. You're not going to, I can't imagine you're going to start Rondo to guard him. That doesn't really make sense. Caldwell Pope is probably the guy that you're going to have. He's their best perimeter defender, arguably. So I don't know. You're going to do something like that. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be an interesting series. It's at this point, you can't really count the Nuggets out. Saying that the Lakers are going to win is too easy because the Nuggets just can't be counted out. So we'll see. I'm gonna go ahead. Fuck it. Nuggets in 6. Fuck it. Let's have some balls on this podcast. Nuggets in 6. Nuggets Celtics finals. First time ever. Joker. If Joker sees the Celtics in the finals, Joker is gonna average 40 and 15. Good for Joker. Best center in the NBA. Good for him. You know what I mean? Keeping it real for every fat-ish person. He's not fat anymore. For every fat-ish person that doesn't have a lot of definition in their arms. Good for him. Good for him. Got to insult him as I give him credit. No, but good for him. What a talent, man. Just an incredible passer, incredible basketball mind. They always talk about point guards, are always the first guys to get coaching jobs. Joker will have a coaching opportunity, I think. The way he sees it, he's a step ahead. Again, like Larry Bird, he's just a step ahead of everyone. He's just a step ahead of everybody. You know what I mean? That's all it is. When you are not athletic, right? When you're not athletic, again, this is what I said about Larry and Luka. Even though Luka definitely got more explosive coming into the bubble, which is even scarier. And understand, hold on, before I do this, LeBron too. LeBron is super athletic though, so people are not going to talk about him in this. Same thing with MJ. Super athletic, so people aren't going to talk about him in this light per se. These guys all see the game. Same thing with Magic. These guys all see the game a step ahead. Great post players. Kevin McHale, Hakeem. These guys see the game a step ahead. That's why they know what moves to go to in the post. That's why these guys, Joker, LeBron, MJ, Magic, can see passes developing before. Chris Paul can see passes developing before. James Harden, fuck what you think about James. Can see the pass develop before the pass has to be made. 2 steps before the play is made. That's why Joker operates, can play the game slow. That's why Larry Bird doesn't need to be athletic. That's why Joker doesn't. And again, I've been saying this now for the last 7 months, that we've had it mistaken. Luka is not Larry because Larry never had the ball in his hands that much. That wasn't how Larry wanted to play basketball. Larry did not want to play basketball that way. Larry plays basketball like Joker plays basketball. Joker and Larry are far more closer than people realize. They see the game a step ahead. They're able to execute on offense that way. It doesn't matter how fast you are if I'm already a step ahead of you. It doesn't matter how fast or athletic. None of that matters if I'm a step ahead of you already. It doesn't make a difference. You know what I mean? So credit to Joker. I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of basketball, right? I got all my anger out. Joker's the best center. Coaching. I don't know what's going to happen with our coaching search. I don't want Mike D'Antoni here. The only way we're hiring Mike D'Antoni, be clear. I'm going to take a stand here. I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to say this. The only way we're hiring Mike D'Antoni is if that means we're trading Joe. It's the only way that makes sense. Mike D'Antoni is not coming here to coach Joe and to run a slow-ass half-court offense. That's what Joe wants to run. Joe wants to be a half-court player. That's what he is. He's a half-court player. He's not somebody who wants to be in the open court. You're going to come here and put Ben at the 5 and say, run. You know what I mean? You're going to end up putting Al at the 5 if you end up trading. Let's say you trade Joe, you put Al. God, please don't. I don't want to see Al Horford play the 5. If you trade Joe, you know what I mean? Al Horford's coming off the bench. You're going to put Ben at the 5, and you're going to say, go ahead, Ben. You're going to have like Shake, Josh, Matisse probably, Toby, and Ben. And go run. And whatever you get back for Joe. You know, if you ended up trading Joe. Let's say you traded Joe to I don't want to trade Joe. Understand that. I am fully opposed to trading Joel Embiid. I do not at all by any means, in any means trading Joel Embiid. By no means do I want to trade Joe. Not unless you're getting what could you get back for Joe that I would be like, okay. Could you trade Joe to the Wizards for Bradley Beal and like a draft pick or something? Then sure. I'm cool with running with that team. Run with that team. Could you trade Joe to where would it make sense? Any team would trade for Joe. Is just I can't think of teams that would make sense that you're going to trade for Joe here and this makes sense. Is there anything on the Bulls? No, there's nothing I want from the Bulls. That's just a mess of bullshit. Anyway, I'm not going to think any more about this. I don't want to trade Joe. I'm not trading Joe. But if you're signing Mike D'Antoni, that means you're probably trading Joe. Just bring in Ty Lue, I guess. I don't want Ty Lue per se, but I do think that me included, I should be included in this, that we are not giving Ty Lue any credit or any ability. They did bounce back from being down 3-1. That had a lot. There was I remember at that time, I might be wrong. I don't know if it was one of the assistant coaches or if it was Ty Lue. I think it was Ty Lue that when they went down 3-1, gave like a really impassioned speech to the locker room that the locker room like kind of digested and it helped them bounce back. Now, there's a lot of things that helped them bounce back from coming back 3-1. Let's be clear. One was the Draymond getting suspended at the end. Genius by LeBron. Gets Draymond suspended for Game 6. I think it was for Game 6. End of Game 5 and Game 6. And then and Andrew Bogut getting injured, who was their best defensive player in the post that was stopping all action coming into the post. It was the Andrew Bogut. But anyway, so, it takes a lot to manage LeBron and to manage Kyrie. That's not an easy thing to do. So, I think there's something there. I'd be willing to give him a try. The problem is I don't trust anything this front office does because we're stupid and we're trash. So whoever they're high on, I have to be like, no, that can't be good. They said they were going to reorganize the front office and evaluate. They haven't done anything. They're not going to do anything. We're stuck with this shitty front office, and it's Elton's fault. I don't care what you say. Elton or the other, Scott O'Neil, another asshole. That's it. I'm done. I don't want to get myself depressed before my work day today. Everybody, you know the deal. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Black Lives Matter. Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. All of the things. Siri went off. I don't know why Siri's talking. She thinks I'm talking to her. I'm not talking to Siri. And that's it. Everybody keep it real. Yeah.
Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come